I'm Bree the Plant Lady, and tonight I want to take you on an in-depth tour of the borders here at the Carolina Garden House, featuring all North American native plants. Now, July and August have been really hot and really dry. Now, we did get 1.5 inches of rain a couple of nights ago, but that's probably already gone. We don't have a lot of rain in the forecast, and a lot of the plants that I selected for these shrub borders are showing me their true colors, and they don't really love living in life in full sun, sandy front yard situation. And I have to confess, I have a pina colada here to help me cope with going through this process because, well, it's sad. I don't like watching plants fail at all, and especially when I'm in the driver's seat. It really bothers me. And certainly not everything is a failure, and actually the things that were really bad I've already pulled out and replanted into the woods because they're obviously species that need to be in more shade. But it brings up the subject of something that I think we probably all need to be talking more about when we're discussing natives. It's like there's nothing really native about this site. So, you know, prior to the mid-1990s, when this was developed to be a neighborhood, essentially just a wasteland of turf, this property was all tobacco fields. And I don't actually know how long it was tobacco fields. And prior to it being a tobacco field, I'm assuming it was like a piney mixed deciduous forest with things like tulip poplars and sweet gums and oaks, and it's a wetland. So, you know, it's an area that has seasonal wetness, mostly in the winter, but extreme dryness in the summer because it's all sand. And the kind of ordinary, easy to find native plant palette isn't necessarily well suited for this environment. A lot of the standard favorites are really struggling here, and that's because this isn't the standard location, and that means that my job is going to be that much harder to find the plants that are actually supposed to be growing here. So without further ado, let me turn the camera around and we'll go do a thorough walk. All right, start with a success. Now, I know I posted a video about how bad Gina's doing compared to Bright Eyes, and I know it's not really fair because this Bright Eyes has been in the ground since 2020, so 3 years. It's well established. You can see it does have some powdery mildew, but I don't care because all day long it is covered with swallowtails. Like, this is the fewest I've seen all day, but of course they sort of go to bed kind of early. Now, walking over to the Gina, I went ahead and cut it back because it was making me mad every time I walked past. And it's got Septoria leaf spot, which is really sad and bad. This has been in the ground a year. So I know it's not as established as Bright Eyes. It definitely is a plant that needs to have the Chelsea chop because it proved itself to just be a floppy mess. But I'm pretty concerned about this leaf spot problem because, well, this may be the reason that I've not been able to keep it as a perennial. I don't know. Like, you know, it's not like I start with a bad attitude about plants. I universally like all plants. But this is my third try with Gina, and I've never gotten Gina to live more than 18 months here in my Fuquay-Varina, very hot, very sandy environment. And again, this is why I'm saying it might be better for, you know, people in the mid-Atlantic. I know it was from Nashville, but we're like 1.5 zones hotter than Nashville, so that doesn't really mean anything. I'm gonna stand with my assessment that Bright Eyes is the better choice for southern gardeners. I'm not giving up on Gina, but I am genuinely disappointed. And I think that that's okay to acknowledge. And when a plant is underperforming, it maybe deserves a little discussion. That's all. All right, now another well-established, in theory, border is this one. This is also a year old. It's been in the ground since the middle of August last year. And I am overwhelmed and just overall super, super happy with this collection of plants. They're all perennials. Of course, the different species of pycnanthemum have absolutely rocked all summer long. All the pollinators love it. As far as I get close, they all fly away. The eupatoriums, or eutrochium as they are called now, have also been great performers. I've been debating on whether I should go ahead and cut these back, just because it is plenty of time for it to branch out and just kind of be able to continue to photosynthesize. I love, love, love this little liatris, and I definitely want more liatris in my life. I got this at Carolina Native, and I'm gonna have to go back through my records because I don't remember the species name right now. This has just started blooming, and you can see there's lots of flowers to come. And of course the agastaches, I did do a hard cutback on the agastaches. As you can see, they're really starting to bulk up, and I think they'll reflush and continue to flower all fall. And again, like I said, the pycnanthemums are really strong performers. I'm sure that they are going to start running like mad next year, and I'm probably going to lose my mind. But for right now, I'm enjoying them a lot. They also don't wilt every time it's hot. Some of these plants in here are not necessarily as drought tolerant as I need them to be, hence the hose. Of course, the Baptisias did great. They bloomed, you know, in the spring, and they don't seem to be bothered by drought. Solidago is just starting to bloom now. It's really, really great. I'm really pleased with these penstemon that are from Proven Winners, and that is Midnight Masquerade. So I really, really am keen on those. And of course, the salvias, the Salvia greggii and Salvia microphylla, definitely the right choice for this environment. I think the main thing that I'm trying to express through kind of my frustration and disappointment with some of the plants I have in my other borders, I should not be looking to cooler environments to get plant material. I need to be looking to warmer environments, like to Texas. So if a plant is native to Texas, it's going to be well suited here because this is sand and this is full sun, and I basically have nothing in common with the mountains, and I have nothing in common with the Midwest or the Mid-Atlantic as far as this specific site. Therefore, I need to think more critically about where my plants are being sourced from. It's really inconvenient because the easiest places with established native nurseries are in the mountains and the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic. So I'm having to basically reach deep into my network and try and find some new sources. So moving forward, I have germplasm that's going to be better suited for this reality. And look, I am not knocking my existing sources. It's not their fault that I live here. They have fabulous plants, and actually, for the most part, everything has performed really well. I just chose some species that really weren't supposed to be out here. And I'd say the number one casualty was Clethra alnifolia, hummingbird. And I've pretty well removed all of them from the shrub borders, put them into the woodland swamp. Also, the swamp azalea and the coastal azalea, those have both been pulled out, transplanted into the woods, where I'm sure they're going to be so much happier. I've been a bit disappointed with some of the viburnums and actually the deciduous hollies. Again, this is on me. They've only been in the ground since January. I haven't been providing enough water, obviously. I very naively thought that because we had a wet winter and a really wet, mild spring, that they were established, and they're not. So, you know, there's a lot of crispy leaves. They really haven't put on all that much new growth. I again, it's my fault. I'm not blaming the plants at all, okay? It's me. It's not them. Now, I am really impressed with the perennial layer. And you remember, these weren't done until like the middle of June, I think, sometime around the middle of June. And so you can see Heliopsis is in bloom right now, and really I haven't had any perennials that have kind of curled up and died. It's really just been shrubs. I have been watering, and I have proof, so let me show you. And no, it's not my water bill. Proof that I have been trying to keep things watered. Cephalanthus has recovered and is blooming. This feels like a huge win because, to be honest, probably a month ago, I really thought I was going to lose all of the Cephalanthus, and I was like, okay, get these dug. And then I went out of town and didn't, and I'm amazed that they have actually recovered to the point that they are. You know, when I first put this in, I really did think, okay, I'm really testing the limits putting this out here, but it's proving to be, you know, pretty well adjusted. The deer have been bothering the jet stream hydrangea quercifolia. Otherwise, I think they're fine. I just need to put a cage around those. The American Gold Rush is fantastic. If you haven't grown this black-eyed season, put this on your must-grow list. Let's see. The black-berried aronia is looking pretty good. I mean, it set a lot of berries, which is great, and they are delicious. I just haven't been eating them. It definitely lost a lot of leaves due to drying out, but I think it's recovering now because I've been more dedicated to keeping a sprinkler running. Yeah, I'm on city water, so it's a pretty high water bill. I'm not gonna lie. We really should put a well in. I'd say one of the plants that looks really bad, and I've been hoping that it would just fix itself, it's probably not going to, is the Lindera benzoin. And you can see it here. And I mean, I'm getting a little hope. There's some new growth popping out, but it is really not enjoyed being here at all. Probably should just go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off. It'll grow like wildfire in the woods. I should just go ahead and do that. And the spireas, I've got to say, those are top success stories. I really like these native spireas. This is Spirea alba, and you can see it's actually putting on more new flowers that pollinators are enjoying. There's actually a little ladybug and a wasp on that flower. You know, like I said, it's not like a complete failure by any measure. There's a lot of plant material here. I just have a tendency to be a bit critical of myself, and since I was literally the one in the driver's seat for choosing everything, for buying the plants and for placing them where they are, when something fails, I take it very personally. And I feel like maybe that's useful for you all to hear and see, you know, when certain choices weren't the right choices. Now, overwhelmingly, I think this bed looks better, and that's probably because we filled it with so much Carex. And, you know, Carex is just kind of the magic that's filling in the gaps and making it not have any weeds, and you can't even totally tell where I pulled out so many plants. I mean, I've got some relatively large holes throughout the beds, and that's from where I pulled out things that were really crispy. But this Rudbeckia subtomentosa is really awesome. This is one of my favorite species of Rudbeckia. I like these quilled petals. And I've got to say, Fothergilla is a rock star. Now, this is Fothergilla gardenii, Mount Erie. It has not skipped a beat. It has not wilted. It doesn't have any brown foliage. Like, it does not mind this condition. So I love it extra now. And you can see how great the muley grasses are looking, filling in. again, Lindera, and that's a cephalanthus. They're not super happy at all. Actually, no, that's a Lindera. That's also a Lindera. And oddly enough, some of the Clethra don't look terrible. And I'm wondering if it's just like where I had the sprinklers placed that this group was getting better water. Now you can see that one is showing some crispy edges, but nothing like the ones that I pulled out. Now here is more Spirea that I'm really, really impressed by. This is Spirea subtomentosa. And I have been taking pictures of that dragonfly right there, like for the last hour. It hasn't moved. I don't know what it's doing, but I love it. Figured I should come over on this side and give you a better view. It's so beautiful. It's like tiger striped wings. And like I said, I think this Spirea tomentosa gets prettier as the flower stalks age and dry out. I'm really impressed with that. I think, like, as I was like, well, what should I replace, like, the things I pulled out? I mean, you can see there's a huge hole here from Clethra. I think I should just get more Spirea. That's the solution. Here's one more Clethra that I left, just because it was nowhere near as crispy as the two that I pulled out. Again, like, you can just tell everything's a bit dry, and to be honest, I think everything's a little bit nutrient starved, and that's because I didn't give it any fertilizer, and this bed is really lean, and that was on purpose. It's what everybody said needed to be done. But I've been contemplating if I should just put out some organic fertilizer, try to green some stuff up, and give it a little hope for next year. I can't help it, you guys. I am a trained traditional horticulturalist growing things with like lush, delicious black soil. I'm not used to gardening this way. This is completely foreign. Like, it's so silly that all of these native plants are totally foreign to me, and understanding how to grow them is like basically starting from scratch as a horticulturalist. And I'm intimidated by the process, and that's why when something doesn't do well, I do take it very personally, because it's like, I obviously haven't done my due diligence to learn what I needed to learn. And my dear friend Preston Montague, who's a landscape architect, he uses a really significant native plant base, but even he was telling me that, like, the climate that we're dealing with now, which isn't what it was 10 years ago, he's having to start use plants that are from, Mexico and the Mediterranean region, where they're more tolerant of heat and drought. And our traditional southeastern native plant palette generally comes from like wet woodlands. And well, this is not a wet woodland. Even though this is wet all winter long when we get lots of rain, in the summer, when we go like even just a week without water, there is no moisture here whatsoever. And so I definitely am going to be way more conscientious of making my plant selections based off of this reality, and not fooling myself into thinking that I'm somehow going to be better at watering than I am, because I'm just not. And I'm used to watering where I've got really rich, beautiful black soil from Soil Cube that absorbs that water and makes it so that nutrients and moisture is available to plants. And now I'm growing in lean sand, and it is a very, very different experience. And honest to God, I think I could run the sprinklers 24 hours a day and I would still have crispy plants. And that's not what I want. So I'm gonna keep trying to fight nature by finding plants that are better suited for the reality of this condition. And that's really most important, what I want to display through these videos. I don't know what I'm doing with this, okay? I straight up don't know. I've intellectually done the research, and you know, I've only had to like dig out like 6 plants. So yeah, in the big scheme of things, that's not a lot, but I'm not really satisfied with how this looks. And so I'm making it my mission to figure out how to do better and to make sure that I'm more aware of bringing in plants that are actually coming from southern sources so that I'll be better prepared for the climate reality that we're going to be dealing with in the foreseeable future. Well, ultimately, I just hope that this will serve as some form of inspiration, or if anything else, make you feel better about your gardening successes. I'm certainly not counting this as a failure. This entire process over here at the Carolina Garden House is just a new to me experiment that I'm going to keep being able to learn from, and I want to be able to share that knowledge with all of you. And I want to end it on a really positive note. I've never actually had the courage to plant this because I assumed that it would be a thug and take over the world, but Monarda punctata is like my new favorite thing ever. As you can see, it's huge. This is one plant. I did not cut it because I didn't know I needed to. Because like I said, I've only admired this in other people's gardens and I've never grown it myself. It's actually quite woody and insects absolutely adore it. I just think it's one of the coolest looking plants, and I definitely think that this is one that should be on your must grow list. So I hope that that will leave you with some cheer and happiness, and I do look forward to sharing more updates with all of you as I continue to learn from these native plant borders here at the Carolina Garden House. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.